Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rational Female Podcast. And we got the usual panel today. And we're going to be talking about the Manosphere. So I did a great video recently on Louis Theroux's documentary talking about the Manosphere called Inside the Manosphere. I'm pretty sure that's the title. And yeah, it was a painful watch. I personally thought it was just awful. I did not enjoy it. The whole time I was watching it, I was just making notes on my phone because I knew I was going to make a video on it. But I didn't enjoy watching it at all. I thought it was a horrible, horrible documentary. I thought the men were just awful. I thought this is not representative of the well-meaning people out there who oppose feminism. This is just the worst kind of people, the worst kind of, arrogant people who just want to show off and who just seem to care about money. Like I said in the video, these men don't love women, they love money. So I'm going to bring it to the panel. What do we guys think, first of all, of the documentary?
Absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
Absolute nonsense.
I thought it
was one-sided, false and poisonous.
Yeah. For me, it was as if you would walk into a brothel and say, this is what feminists think. And, it is as if you're saying that prostitutes represent feminists. This is, a prostitute might be a feminist, but that doesn't mean that prostitutes represent feminism. So I didn't think that,
I'm wondering if Louis Theroux was doing it in good faith and just doesn't understand the manosphere, or I don't know if he was intentionally trying to misrepresent the so-called manosphere. Because let's establish something, the word manosphere, and what exactly it means. Because I've seen the men's rights activists and intactivists lumped in with the manosphere, which if you want to make it about people that talk about men's issues, that's one thing. But if you're going to try and present all manospheres, as all men's rights activists, as being red pillars, as being trad cons, then that's not just incorrect, it's disingenuous. And it's also dangerous because now you're saying that people who talk about men's rights should immediately be labeled as misogynist and dismissed. Mm-hmm. Well, then who and when do we get to talk about legitimate male issues?
Well, also really important is that it's not just a misrepresentation. It is the official definition. If you just go with Google AI, the manosphere, the pickup artists, incel communities, it's a loose network of websites, and forums that are dedicated to misogyny, anti-feminism, and blah, blah, blah. Look at Wikipedia. It's the same thing. It's all looking at it as in the worst possible light. And that's that we have to understand. That is the official understanding of manosphere.
Well, they've co-opted the name and they've incorporated the worst of it, and then they say that is what it is. Right. But even if you say that's what it is, incels are part of the manosphere. There were no incels in that documentary. MRAs are part of the manosphere. There were no MRAs. It would have been different if he had at least chosen one person from each. He could have chosen one pickup artist, one incel, one MRA. Instead, he chose all pickup artists. All of them were the same. It wasn't about manosphere. It was about pickup artists. Let's go into the world of online pickup artists, male online pickup artists. This is not manosphere. What about incels? What about MRAs? But the truth is that the word manosphere actually started, I think at least, as an umbrella term to talk about all men who lean away from feminism, and pickup artists are a group, are part of that, yes, but they're not the only,
That's
just
right.
like feminism, you could say all women who believe in what they call equality, or all women who believe that women are oppressed, are feminists. Yeah, you could walk into a brothel and you would find sex workers and all of them would say, yeah, we're feminists because we believe that women are oppressed. These are feminists. But if you're going to do a documentary on feminists, you're not going to walk into a brothel and say these are feminists. These are sex workers who happen to be feminists.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, to me, he's just working standard feminism. It's half of gender reality presented as if it were gender reality in its entirety. You're just looking at, okay, if you want to point the camera at macho, fine. But then go also and point the camera at femisa, the mirror opposite, the feminine side. If macho is inauthentic, immature masculine that's characterized by rigidness, dominance, territoriality, hyper competition, and so on, then okay, fine. But then go point the camera at Femisa, have both sides. Yeah, so Femisa would be immature, inauthentic feminine that is characterized by victim mongering and moralizing, and just look at the mirror opposite. Now you're looking at both sides, and now you're doing something constructive. But feminism never does that. Feminism always just looks at men of the power, women of the victims, and therefore it just looks at half a gender reality and presents it as if it were gender reality in its entirety. That's what
that's actually
the problem I had, because I was thinking to myself, right? They show the manosphere, they show this toxic side of men, but what about the toxic side of women? And Louis Theroux makes a point talking about how a lot of these men were abused. A lot of feminists like Andrea Dworkin or Gloria Steinem had very bad upbringings too. So
Well, something I want to say is that Tim was talking about show the mirror, show the opposite. It's funny because feminism is a reflection of the toxic side of the manosphere, much more than the reflection of genuine men's rights activists. Because genuine men's rights activists don't say toxic things about anyone, but feminists say just as much toxic things about men as the manosphere says about women. So I find it very interesting that their instinct is to see the manosphere as the counterpoint to feminism and not us.
Right.
So when they think about what is the balance of feminism, what is the reflection of feminism, that's what their brains go to, because they're seeing the same level of toxicity. So they're seeing the manosphere as synonymous for the male version of feminism. Isn't it interesting that what they see as synonymous is something toxic and misogynistic? That's almost a confession that the misogyny of the manosphere is a reflection and a portrayal of the misandry of feminism.
Yeah, right. Yeah. If we're going to look at the manosphere, how about looking at the femosphere then, which dwarfs the manosphere after all? That would be feminism. That would be all pervasive in our world. The femosphere is practically the world.
Yeah, and the other thing is that what I remember is there was a point where he was talking to one of the males. It was a black male, and he had a girlfriend, and he was talking to the girlfriend, trying to talk about, oh, it's bad that this one-sided polygamy, right? And the girl said, she actually said in the beginning, she loves him because he is someone totally different on camera as off. So I take from that what she meant is he's not really polygamous. He just pretends to be, but whatever, right? And then he kept trying to poke at her to say, meaning he gets something, your man gets something from the relationship, but you don't, which is that he gets to be polygamous. And what about your feelings? You don't get to be polygamous. But I thought that was interesting because he was poking at it to say that she is on the losing end of the stick because he's polygamous. But he never asked all of those women, what is it that they get that the man doesn't? And what is it that they get is that the man is spending lots of money on her. She's not in the relationship for love reasons. She's not in love with that guy. These women are being paid to be there, which means that she gets money, he doesn't. So why didn't he poke at that? Why didn't he say to the man, hey, she's only there for the money. You don't get genuine love. Do you feel like you get genuine love from a woman who's only there because you're successful? The thing is that there are always two sides. He could have poked at what are the insecurities on his, but he only looks at the problems on the woman's side to say these men are villains. What about the other way around? Are these women not also villains for how they treat men as just ATM or whatever?
Can I? That, by the way, the person you're talking about is Myron Gaines from a podcast in America that's actually pretty famous. It's Fresh and Fit. If you're familiar with Fresh and Fit, that's who he is. He actually lives not too far from me. He is an absolute clown. He has been caught telling the guests on his podcast that they have to sleep with him. He's been caught offering money to prostitutes and then shames them for being prostitutes when he was their customer. He was their John not too long before. He's an absolute joke. He's widely rejected by the men's rights movement. He's widely considered to be an absolute joke, an absolute fool, an absolute nobody, completely irrelevant. But the fact that he was taken seriously as a subject makes it impossible for me to take Louis Theroux seriously, frankly. I mean, it's laughable. It really shows that he's either completely clueless or this was an intentional smear piece.
Yeah, Myron James is awful, and I remember it's a very good point as well about his girlfriend Angie. Well, they're now not together, and how the women are just as complicit in this. Like all those women have chosen to be with those men, and it was the same with Justin Waller, like his partner. They've chosen to be complicit in one-sided monogamy, not polygamy, but yeah, it's called one-sided monogamy, and it's absolutely right. Like those women have chosen to be with men who have a lot of money, and it's a very, very shallow, superficial relationship. Myron Gaines,
they support the system. You see, the system couldn't work without their complicity in it. See what I'm saying? I mean, if they weren't complicit with it, it would.
And I find it interesting that he didn't poke at this insecurity. It was like he had bad intentions. He really wanted to say that men are bad. Yeah. Because it is not a case of just men being bad. Both of these people are toxic in their weird ways. He's toxic and selfish for not wanting to give her exclusive love, but she's also toxic and selfish for basing his worth on the fact that he can provide a big house, a car, whatever. These are both very weird, toxic, shallow, nonsensical,
Yeah, and it was apparent to me that part of his motivation was a vengeance about those very same men, same type of men that bullied him in gym class and stole his lunch money, on his way to school. He's got a case against these kind of men.
Yeah. I mean, the men themselves, they're not particularly decent people. No. They're shallow. They're
kind of dumb.
Myself, perhaps they're all being paid to be on there. Like perhaps the whole thing itself is a setup. Like maybe it's all staged. Maybe they've all been paid money to appear on this.
And at one point, they said one of the men was 23 or something. I can't remember, but the age, as Tim just said, these men are really young. They're exploring life. They're immature. They don't know anything. Everybody makes mistakes in their youth. These are young. Yeah.
So I want to ask then, you guys, so what actually is the manosphere? Because my understanding, and Blueorange has said this, there's men's rights activism, actual men's rights, people like say Warren Farrell or Cassie J or Paul Elam. And then there's the manosphere, which seems to be part of the red pill community. And I know that Roma Army, for example, she herself is a female MRA, and she's like styles herself as anti-manosphere. So what actually is the manosphere?
Okay, so this is interesting. According to Google AI, I just looked up manosphere. Yeah. They are not including MRAs.
Oh, they
not
when I put manosphere in, they included all those. Okay, so AI, Google AI changes its mind a lot. Okay,
every time.
I would say that the manosphere is what feminists try and portray men's rights activists as. So the genuine misogynists, the genuine red pillars, the men who appeared in the documentary, that is what my brain thinks of as the manosphere. But I also do sometimes catch myself alluding to the men's rights movement as being part of the manosphere, not because we are equatable to those people, but because we're perceived to be part of those people. And obviously, there's going to be the occasional overlap between our anti-feminism and their anti-feminism. But at the same time, sometimes the manosphere, the red pills, they align with feminists more than we do. So, or at least we talk with some aspects of feminism, because men's rights activists are very, very against trad cons. We're very, very against the women staying home and not working. And I know that feminists do believe that women should work, but if you look at the more radical female dating strategy, or pink pill feminism, which is getting more and more popular, it's the belief, pink pill feminism is the belief that although women should have jobs and careers equal to men, men should still be expected to provide, and men should be expected to cover the costs and bills and rents because it offsets the patriarchy and it offsets the historical barriers women have had to financial security, all that nonsense. It's essentially just female supremacy. And when you look at the roles that each partner is supposed to play, it's an even worse version of how red pillars and tradcons want to treat women. So
Yeah.
pink pill feminism is not exactly mainstream feminism, so I'm not trying to accuse feminists of saying that, but it is growing. And if you remember FDS a few years ago, pink pill is basically just that, but changed names.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would say about the manosphere. No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say I support traditional roles in general. I think that traditional roles are very good, but not in the sense that women shouldn't work, more in the sense that I think in a relationship, a man should be, at his masculine core and a woman should be the feminine. I think that's very good. I don't believe that's one of the problems I have with feminism. I think the men of my generation have become very feminized. And I think that, there's this loss of like, I don't like to use this term, but you could say positive masculinity in the sense of like, where a positive example of a man would be someone like Idris Elba, right? That's a very, grounded, masculine man, but he doesn't appear to be a terrible person. Or I don't know, like from television, I guess, who's a very good, okay, I love Game of Thrones. Let's say Jon Snow, Robb Stark, this kind of the protector, the provider, but also good. And I actually think that's very good for men. I think most men want to be masculine and most women want to be, the feminine counterpart. That's what I think anyway.
Yeah, well, hetero, the word hetero means different. Heterosexuality is attracting to that which is different. And if we're going to continue to breed as a species, we're going to have to maintain some measure of polarity in that.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to, I don't really talk to anyone around me about these kinds of things on a regular basis. My town is, I don't want to say apolitical, but people do not like talking about politics here. But what are some things that you've heard? Serena, I know you mentioned a political group that you were part of had a conversation about this. What are some conversations you guys have had around town, around work, around your social circle? How did people that you know around you react to the documentary?
Okay, so I mean, I don't talk to too many people about politics, but in this, I am in an actual political group. It's an international group, and we did discuss the Manosphere. The general view seemed to be that the men, I don't really remember all of it because so much was said, and it was like, I think over a week ago, but the general view is that these are not good people, and there was a lot of talk about absence of fathers and absence of male role models.
Really?
And yeah, absence of male role models. And also that the men, they seem to do like the problems to do with masculinity in themselves, like them trying to prove themselves and prove how much money they have. I didn't really like a lot of what was said, to be honest. I will say though that I think most people in general have, if I think of London, like London is a quite liberal it's not classical liberal, like
it's a hellhole. It's a progressive hellhole.
Yeah, it's just like most people. I mean, this is the thing. Like, I don't really talk to too many people anymore. But when I used to like talk to people a lot of my old friends like were pro feminism. I posted an article about this on my Substack actually. How most all the women I meet seem to be pro feminist. Like the people in my life now, we don't talk about politics because they don't have an opinion. But there's this view that like this toxic masculinity and. I think this is the general mainstream view. I think the mainstream view is like the manosphere man, a toxic man, and feminism is equality, and it's just about choice, and we need feminism. I think that's the mainstream view.
Yeah,
I think that's what most people think. Yeah. And I think like the funny thing is though, I've looked statistically, most people don't identify as feminist in the UK, but most people do support gender equality. Which is very interesting, which goes to show that most people agree with the idea
that men and women gender equality, you see. I think that what they tend to mean by gender equality is a corrective. It's all about we'll reach gender equality when we have addressed the imbalance of power enjoyed by men and the imbalance of victimization suffered by women, then we will achieve equality. But that operates from the initial premise that men have the power and women are the victims. And if that initial premise is false or just one-sided and therefore false, then the corrective is false. The corrective is not leading toward equality. It's not leading toward justice. It's leading toward some kind of a world made perfect for women, men be damned kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to add to what Jana was saying. Yeah, I mean, it's important. Like, for example, there are women who will marry these kind of guys that have money with the preconceived notion of having a few kids with them, divorcing them, and then milking them. They'll keep the house, they keep the income, they keep the children, and cut him out. So, I mean, it's important to say that, not because I want to condemn women, but just to say that there's a mirror opposite to these things. Absolutely. Yes, there's some very bad men out there, and there's some very bad women out there, and they both have weaponry with which they can destroy the other.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I believe in equality of accountability, and that's something which I think we all agree with. Like, not equality of men and women, the baseline of men have had all the power and women have been subjugated. It's more that we need to hold men and women equally accountable, because it's actually a very dangerous society when we say that everything is the fault of men and women are just victims, because what that does is it allows bad female behavior. And I made a point of mentioning this in the group, and nobody else seemed to say that. Maybe I think another guy who's been on my channel before, but most people either have this, because I think the majority of people are either pro-feminist or they don't have an opinion on feminism, or without meaning to, they make feminist, they espouse feminist rhetoric. Even if they would say, no, I'm not a feminist, I don't know anything about feminism, they'll say things like, men are so disappointing, or, yes, it's always been hard for women. And they don't understand where this narrative comes from. It's all conditioning, it's brainwashing. And this is where this stupid documentary is feeding into this cultural narrative of telling people that men are somehow bad and women are all victims, when actually the reality is that men and women are both equally accountable of behaving badly and positively towards each other.
Yeah. So, for example, the point, when they were in this big house with the woman who had some kids and so on, and he was pointing out that to this guy that it's one-sided monogamy, and isn't that unfair? And then the guy said, yeah, I tell women directly when I'm on a first date with them that I have a wife and she's so hot, right? Now, the interviewer was presenting it as if this guy is so arrogant and he sleeps around with other women, but he doesn't allow his wife, so he has all the control, and this is obviously toxic, right? Now, he could have very easily said to the wife, why do you choose a guy who wants to sleep with other people but doesn't allow you to do the same? Are you with him for money? Are you with him because you just get to stay at home and not ever have to worry about money, yet you still live in this massive house with cars or whatever? Meanwhile, I don't think that's really how it is. I think that's just how they pretend it is. To me, it's transparent that they don't actually live like that, because it seems like they just, when you're running a business and you have certain costs, their business is to look rich because they want to sell their Bitcoin or whatever. And so they spend a lot of money on rent and renting cars and renting places. So I don't think these people are actually rich. But anyway, they could have asked the woman these sort of things. She did say at some point, she worked at one point in her life and it was so hard, and she thinks it's just so much easier that he's in his masculine and she's in her feminine, where she never has to work. But why didn't you poke at why is she doing that? What is, why? Because some accountability must be on the woman. She's not this poor victim who has no choice. She lives in a huge world where she could choose any man, where she could definitely find a guy who wouldn't want to sleep with other women. She could definitely do that. She doesn't have any. It's not like, oh my God, she has no choice. Why was there no accountability placed on the woman? I find that to be a bit weird. She could choose easily. What is wrong with her? Why is she choosing that? She's definitely choosing it for a reason. And the reason is just as toxic as whatever his rationale is. So
yeah, these are women that would rather share these men that are tens, you know, than have having a more ordinary man all to themselves. They're choosing. There's female agency in all of this.
There absolutely is. And also, you know, a lot of these men, the women they were with were like OnlyFans models or adult performers. And then you have this guy, he's just saying that he would disown his daughter if she did OnlyFans when his girlfriend is literally on OnlyFans.
Well, the woman in that video, I think she looked, I mean, this is obviously stereotypical and I'm probably wrong, but yes, she did look like she was into that world before. The fact that her breast was so big, maybe she had it pumped or something. I have no idea. But it could be that she's naturally beautiful. I don't know. I'm just saying, but yeah, this is another world, and they think, oh, they're alphas, they're the top. I think it's all fake. I don't think any of these men are alphas or the top 10 or anything. To me, it looks like they're running a business, and the business model is I have to appear to be wealthy, and all the money that they rake in from younger men who believe that they are wealthy, they have to spend that on pretending to be wealthy, which means that they actually have no wealth. They're on a rat race. They're in a loop. And to me, that doesn't look like real wealth at all. Both the woman and the men probably came from hard, poor backgrounds. And her way of making a buck is to get a guy to pay her entire lifestyle. And that she is essentially a prostitute. I'm sorry, but essentially these women are prostitutes. So obviously they don't care if the man sleeps with other women because she is a prostitute. Her job is to get money from him. He's the John. And his world is just running a rat race to pretend to make loads of money so that younger men pay him for advice on how to make money. And with the money from these younger men, he pretends that he has money. So there's no wealth there. There's no top 10%. This is a prostitute and a scammer who come together. And that's what I saw.
Yeah. So from one of my formulations is from, as seen from a politicized male perspective, the so-called patriarchy is just men everywhere set in fierce competition in their efforts to perform, achieve, and succeed their way into having what women are empowered to demand of them. And that's what you're saying there. These men are working their asses off, trying to be what these women want and demand of them, because they see the women demand this of them, right? I mean, they're not out there hunting for some auto mechanic, you know, who might be a really great guy. They're demanding these men with Lamborghinis and Armani suits and, you know, and a mansion and so on.
And that makes them just as shallow as a guy who says he only wants to sleep with a hot woman and 10 of them at the same time. Yeah. These are shallow people, both him and her, because this is not normal for relationships. A normal relationship is you get to know the person and you fall in love with them for their personality and who they are and something deeper than just, oh, I've got money and I've got breasts, you know?
Yeah, and I think these people are not representative of the average person. Like, you know, I think it's Fresh and Fit now who are basically, they've made people on the internet think that modern women just want men like this. And that's ridiculously unrealistic. Like, I don't think the average woman wants a guy who is like a million. I mean, most women don't know any millionaires anyway. You know, the kind of women who have access to millionaires are OnlyFans, or as Jana was, you know, saying, like women who basically just use their bodies for sexual attention. The average woman is just dating an ordinary guy who works in an office, you know, and the average man is not dating a Instagram model. So normal people are not actually living this kind of lifestyle. And I think that the problem also is that, because I would say I believe, like, I support traditional masculinity, traditional femininity, and traditional values is about, you know, actually monogamy is part of that because it's good for raising families, it's good for stability, and actually everyone benefits better from monogamous marriage. Like, I think monogamy in long-term capacity is very good Because when you have people just, having lots of shallow short-term relationships, and I'm also saying this from personal experience, by the way, like it's not a healthy lifestyle. It's an empty lifestyle. It's not actually having a meaningful connection with someone. You're not having a meaningful connection. So I don't think that people should aspire to this kind of lifestyle. I think people should I don't really care what they choose to do. That's their business. If they want to do that, that's fine. But I think people should aspire to, have some meaning and depth in terms of their relationships with others and have good interpersonal relationships.
I mean, we are having mental health crises, and we will have a lot of mental health crises to come because of the way in which we don't have any more community. The internet has taken over our social systems, and the internet is against us. It doesn't want us to be happy because, these are corporations that just want to make as much money from us as possible. And the thing is that we humans, it is an innate, normal human thing to want to connect with a community, to want to have relationships with people who love us. As much as we say all of our interactions are transactional and thing, love is actually a real normal part of human psychology. And it is true that normal women and men do look for love. They do look for wanting to be appreciated, loved, and to have somebody who likes them. This caricature is not a representation of that. This is a trade that it's an extreme version of a transactional relationship where the man views his transactional contribution as wealth, money, cars, big house, and the woman views her transactional part of the relationship as sex, one-sided monogamy. I'll have sex with you and you go, And so this is an extreme. I'm not saying that transactional stuff is not a part of normal relationship. It may be a part, but it's not the whole thing. And normal people seek normal love and appreciation and that stuff.
Yeah. And the sexes do fall in love on the basis of a little bit differing cues. It is heterosexuality, it is different, and there is that aspect of males falling in love with beauty and women falling in love with what you might call, I don't know, competence or
Right, it's an aspect. I agree.
Yeah.
But for normal people, it's
just too, because to counter that a bit, like you're right, but there is, and I guess more with attraction, maybe not with like actual deep long-term love, but in terms of initial attraction, men initially usually go for looks, and this is what I've heard every dating coach say. Men usually initially go for looks, and women initially go for things like how much money does he have? Is he tall? What job does he do? And then I think as time goes on, love builds
as we get older. We begin to be more discerning in a different way.
And can I point out, when you say that men go for looks and women go for things like being tall is looks.
Sure, Well, I guess it's more like
it's what the tone represents, though. It's some measure of dominance.
But physical. I mean, physical.
But women are going for these guys. Yeah, I mean, they're obviously really great looking, but they're going for things that are either status or symbolic of status, or they are indicators of potential for status.
Right. Women go for safety, competence, kindness, just ability to take care of her. Really.
I'm not sure women go for kindness initially. I'm not sure women initially look for kindness.
Yeah, kindness is actually. There are studies on it, and kindness is like one of the main things that women go for. Kindness.
If that's the case, why do so many women fall for men who are very bad to them?
Well, because competence is also a part of it. Competence is really important as well. And, the ability to protect confidence, so people who are mean are able to project this sort of confidence and, So it's complex,
And
but kindness is important. Protector,
right.
The classic protector provider. Can he provide? Can he protect? Him being tall is helping him to be able to protect. Him being wealthy is helping him to be able to provide. Him being kind is ensuring that he will provide, so these things play a role.
A family man, right?
Yeah. I mean, I remember Justin Wallace saying that what women want is a hero. And he was talking about this like grand narrative of like what a woman is looking for is someone to be a hero. He's right. But the problem is that his idea of being a hero is I have my wife, but then I sleep with other women. And also, I want to point out as well, because a lot of people will say, for example, why isn't she allowed to sleep with other men? Usually, women will accept that as a trade-off because men have a higher need for sex than women. That's why throughout a lot of human history and human societies, there was a lot of polygamy in high status male, not the average male. But for like high status males, it was quite common to have multiple wives, but not as common for women to have multiple husbands because men have a greater need for sex. So it actually makes sense. I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm just saying
we also don't have to fear paternity fraud or whatever. Like the point is, when we have a child, we know who our child is, so we don't have to worry.
That's right.
The
male has the worry of being cuckolded.
Right. And
so that's a piece of the male psychology, you see. He wants to be able to trust that his woman is his and the children that he's raising are his.
By the way, I just want to point out that Angie left Myron. She broke up with him after the documentary.
Yeah, it says that,
Yeah, in the end. Yeah, but cheating may not have the exact same psychological implications for men and women. That's true, because we are slightly different in this respect. But it still doesn't mean that men should cheat and women shouldn't, or whatever. It does. I still think it depends on the person, and some people are open to that, and if that's what you want, then fine. But the truth
I want to be really controversial and just run off that and say, like, I think if a man cheats on his wife, the marriage can survive if they have children. I'm not saying that's a good thing at all. I'm not condoning cheating. Right. I think if a man cheats, the marriage can survive. But if a woman cheats, it can't. Because if a woman cheats, she's saying, I don't respect you. Whereas if a man cheats, he's not necessarily saying, I don't love you. He's saying, I am a man with a physical need. And I'm not actually...
You're going to get in trouble for that.
Well, it depends.
Right?
I'm not saying
but there's truth to it.
I'm not saying that to say that I think cheating is acceptable at all. I do not support cheating. Infidelity is wrong. I am saying, though, that because men and women are different, if a woman is married to a man, and I'm not saying, by the way, if he keeps having multiple women, I'm saying if he does it once, but they have children, that there's still a chance the marriage can survive.
Yeah.
But
it depends. It always
I don't
depends
think it's the same.
Yeah, I think it depends on the relationship. Some men take on, they would say. Some men are cheated on and get over it. Some women are cheated on and get over it.
I think it's worse if a woman cheats, personally, though.
Yeah,
it's worse if they have kids too.
Well, again, the man can be cuckold, the woman cannot.
Yeah.
Right. So
also, the man can detach and have sex without any emotional investment. And
can he?
Oh, there are women who can too. There are women who can too.
Yeah, I suppose.
I've met them.
But I still say that in the bell curves, there's probably a difference there.
Yeah.
Overall, women tend to go more, when it comes to sex, women tend to like be more emotional.
It's more important to men. Yeah. It's more important to men, this whole non-cheating thing. And I think that's also societal. So
I think it's biological.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think the whole non-cheating thing, as in, I don't think women, to a certain extent, personally, I could say women are sexualized so much that our self-worth is not hurt by a man as much as a male would, if you understand. Because for men, sex is something like a trophy. You know what I mean? It's like he did some kind of work and then got it. But for women, sex is available. We don't have to... Yeah, there's nothing that a woman has to do in order to get sex. It's available.
Right. A woman doesn't have these bragging rights that a man does.
Right.
If he managed to get 3 women in bed,
right. Exactly.
That's an achievement, right, for him.
Right. So a man being cheated on, in a sense, I feel it may hurt more from a societal perspective, because he feels that he's lost something in a way. But for the woman, it's just, okay, he betrayed me, okay, but I don't know, it's not as dramatic. Nobody's going to shame her.
I think to touch upon something you said, I think you're saying that for men, getting with 3 women is seen as an achievement or something he can brag about, whereas for women it's not. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not. No,
it really isn't. I know for myself. Yeah, so on.
And no one would shame a woman for being cheated on. Like
No.
nobody would shame a woman for being cheated on. However, from a male perspective, I could see
The
that
loser.
other people would look at it like he somehow failed or something.
Right.
Well,
You
again,
know,
he's
like-
a cuck. He's a cuckold.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is a societal thing. So there are like little different implications that maybe make it more serious for a man or but beyond that, in the real world, you see the thing about these sort of discussions, even though that might be true, just like even though it is true that some relationships are transactional, this is not an extreme thing. This is a small part of it. A whole relationship is more complex than our generalizations, you know. So when you're dealing with a whole relationship, you're dealing with two individuals, and what matters more is whatever happens between those two individuals. So how a man or a woman will react is not really about how a man or a woman would react. It's about how those two individuals will react. What is going on in their relationship, you know? Yeah. So I mean, but these are just generalizations, and I think that's the problem.
Generalizing, yeah.
And I think that's the problem with the whole like pickup artist thing. They view and they take a lot of generalizations and say it's true. And so they look at these transactional things that men and women do and say, this is how it is. So therefore, I can just pay her and she can not sleep around and I will and do it. And this is how you treat women. Because they're kids in a way. They're looking at it as this, as if that is the truth. The truth is a little bit more complex than that. The truth is that humans are humans, irrespective of being a man or a woman. And we're so complex that these rules become nothing once you're dealing with a real person, you know? But yeah. But I agree
can I just ask, because I said something and I just wanted you to, because I think you were going to respond to it. Did you have any thoughts on what I was saying regarding like, if a man is unfaithful, it's not as bad as if a woman is unfaithful?
I don't want to agree with that on camera, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But I kind of see your point. I don't want to take that position. I want to say they're equally wrong. I do think you raised some interesting points, though, about the woman doesn't get shamed for being cheated on, but when the man is cheated on, a lot of people will be sympathetic to him, but people will be much more likely to wonder, oh, what did you do to deserve it? So I get what you're coming from.
Yeah, I don't take it as a matter of personal opinion of which is better and which is worse. I think what I'm hearing Zarina ask is which is better, which is worse in the public arena. And on that basis, I would say it's worse for a woman to cheat than a man to cheat in terms of public opinion, in terms of the bigger picture, the condemnation. I think in society, we are more down on women who cheat than men who cheat.
Yeah.
I think traditionally that's true.
Yeah.
But in 2026, I think societal misandry is so widespread that men are just treated more harshly, really, in all aspects and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say for myself, I would never want to be unfaithful because, you know, I think like I have never been unfaithful, and I also would never want to be because I feel like it's not fair, you know. It's like it's not like I don't know. Like I think for a woman, if you're doing that to a guy, you're basically saying I don't respect you. I would rather just leave if I was feeling that way.
Yeah,
but,
for men, respect is key, you see.
Yeah.
In my opinion, women fall in respect as much as they fall in love.
Yeah.
You see, and so if a woman can't respect a man, she really can't feel much of anything toward him romantically. So
it's very true.
Respected is really, but to bolster what Thomas is saying, yeah, I mean, in the current world, in our feminist world, men can't win for losing. Now we've got this idea that when women cheat, it's for romance, right? And when men cheat, it's just purely for carnal reasons. So yeah, the men comes
it's
up
complicated. Yeah, I mean, I think like the point also I want to make very seriously is like men have an instinctive need to mate, and women, there's more emotion tied to it, more fear and caution, because women have the risk of pregnancy, but also there's greater social shame for women. And, you know, I'm just like, But again, that's not me trying to excuse cheating or say I think cheating is okay. That's me trying to explain. Like, there's another thing I heard somebody say once, right? And I've really thought about this over the years, that a man should love the woman a little bit more than the woman loves him. And when you start to think about that, you think, oh, that's awful. But what I'm trying to think of is, what is
But the mirror reverse of that is a woman respecting her husband more than he respects her.
Yes.
So that's the balance in that system.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not saying that's a good necessarily. I'm not defending it as a good system, but I'm just saying that there's a balance to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I kind of think if you believe the man should love the woman a bit more, we're just again going into the stereotypes. I think it's something like men can easier leave. As historically, men can easier leave the relationship. So the man really has to love her to stay. You know what I mean? Because him leaving the relationship is the crack point. It's in a way. So I think that's why also traditionally they would say the man has the last say or whatever, because I think it's always been seen, at least traditionally, that the man is the one who can leave. The woman is the one, she can't leave children. She must stay, at least historically, she must stay with the children. So if he leaves, then the whole thing falls apart. So he really does need to love her. You know, she's stuck by the fact that she has kids. I don't know, historically at least, you know, and she's not working. She's stuck. She needs him. She's dependent on him. He, on the other hand, is not.
That's why there was stuff like alimony and, you know, because it's very hard. And I think
but before that, without alimony, without the state telling him that.
Well, that's why people have to stay together, because, you know, that's why divorce was illegal.
Right. But what if he just runs away?
Yeah. It was largely to protect the woman that the divorce was so hard to get. Yeah.
But she couldn't just run away because she has children. She's dependent. She's, you know, so because of this dependency that traditional women had through children on men, you know, men are the breaking point. And I think that's why traditionally they said they have the last say. That's one reason why. And the other, and that's why some people say, oh, the man has to love her more because he has to stay, you know.
Well, it's certainly men who are the ones who asked to prove their love. Is the men who are asked to slay a dragon in order to prove their love. I don't see pressure out there for women to prove their love. It's more about, but you see again, there is that balance because she traditionally looked up to him. He was the head of the household. He was the one who made the major decisions. She wanted to pick a man who was superior to her in manly ways, naturally.
Right.
While he chose the woman superior to himself in feminine ways.
Right. And traditionally, the man had to prove his love. She didn't have to prove a single thing. Why? Because by virtue of being there, she proves her love. The risk was so great for her in a traditional society to be with a man that by being with him, that was her proof. He has no risk traditionally because he could be with 100 women and nothing would happen to him, which is why the man had to prove, traditionally, he had to prove his love. A man could go around and sleep with 70 women. As long as he's not married, nothing would happen to him. She cannot sleep with 70 men.
Well, so do a sex change operation, be a man, and see how easy it is to go out and have sex with 70 women.
No, but he could without societal backlash in a traditional society.
No, I understand what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
But she would have to be married, which means she would have to be, I mean, she could sleep with 70 men as well, as long as she's married and doesn't get caught, you know, or something. But you know, but before that point, for her to be with a man, that was the proof.
Well, actually, you make a good point there. I mean, it's always said that men cheat more than women, but do the math. I mean, how can that happen? You know, they're unless they're cheating with other men. I mean, what are they? They're cheating with women. So, I mean, there kind of has to be half and half. But the women, I think, just more often get away with it.
But that's also why, like, there's more stigma against women. There was more stigma against female infidelity because there's more risk, and also because for men, you know, getting sex is a bigger deal. And I guess that's what, to bring it back a bit, that's what the Manosphere is trying to say. Like, again, I don't like the way it's being framed. I think it's horrible. It's chauvinistic. It's a horrible, barbaric, example of masculinity, but I do understand the logic. I get it. If you go back to very primal instinct, dating coaches, right? No single dating coach for women would tell a woman, this is how you sleep with 10 guys in 1 week. Nobody's going to tell women how to do that. It's all about how to get a ring, how to get married, how to get him to commit. That's what dating coaches say over and over again. Whereas for men, dating coaches will say how to pick up women, how to sleep with women, because we are different. That's why we have different dating strategies.
Exactly. There's no such thing as a pickup artist for a woman, because there's no woman out there who thinks, how do I get more men in bed?
She doesn't have to.
That's right. You don't have to. Usually, right? There's an old joke. All right. So 2 guys become 18 at the same day. And they go, oh, wow, this will be great. Now we can finally go down to Joe's and have a beer. And one says to the other, oh, forget about Joe's. I heard about a place where you can go and you can drink all night for free, and you always end up getting laid. The guy says, what? You drink for free and you always end up getting laid? That's incredible. It's astounding. How'd you hear about this place? And the guy goes, well, my sister told me about
it. I would have thought it would have to be a gay bar.
So you get the joke, right? You could just picture. All right. Yeah. That's it's always been known that, if you take it down to the biological floor, women possess the greater reproductive resource. It's endemic in nature. It's the male of the species, the peacock, that grows all this secondary sexual characteristic, because it does so because the female judges on that basis. That's why the male fiddler crab has one claw that's enormous, because he uses that to attract the females, and so on. It's pretty basic in nature that males do what it takes to get laid. And
see, I think a lot of this manosphere stuff is about that, though. It's about men trying to get laid and to flaunt to other men, like, look at how successful I am. I have all these pretty girls. Because, like, what's the point of having money and cars and houses?
Yeah, these guys are they're like peacocks in a way. They've grown this.
That's the con. Yeah. But that is the con that they're playing. They are playing a con on other men, where they're saying, hey, look at me. I can sleep with 3 or 4 or 10 women. I sleep with this is how you get laid. You just need to buy my advice. Pay me for advice, and I will tell you how to get laid. But it's a con, because how they get laid is by paying women with the money that the guys gave them. So you are paying for him to get laid. He doesn't have any real advice. His advice is,
so who's playing whose game out there, right?
Exactly. It's a Ponzi scheme. You are paying this guy to tell you how to get laid. He doesn't know how to get laid. He's literally paying a woman to get laid. You could just go to a prostitute with the money that you have instead of paying him, and then you'd get laid in the same exact way that he gets laid.
That's right.
He pays a woman to get laid. He has no idea how to actually get laid. So it's a con,
And he goes to the gym every day. He spends like half his life at the gym pumping and iron, so...
And still at the end of the day, he needs to pay a woman to get laid.
That's true.
Which is not normal.
Even with all these muscles, he still has to pay for it.
By the way, can I just point out that we've once again achieved the green-purple male-female split on our screens?
Have we?
Yeah.
Yes, I think I wore that last time. I have
Jana, you have to remember to wear purple next time. Although you have some purple in your background there a little bit.
The male half is green, the female half is purple. We got to make that that has to be a rule from now on. We have to do that. That has to be a thing.
Purple. I think I have purple, red, leopard print, black. I just rotate them. Pink.
Well, because this is this shirt here. That's why I wear it. So from now on, it's a rule. Okay. The green-purple thing is set in stone.
I mean, to be honest, though, I think after a while, people just end up looking the same, because I can't even remember what clothes you guys, what change of clothes you guys have worn. You probably think I look exactly the same every week too. I put this in my hair, started doing that again, but yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so to dial it back a bit, I mean, we've covered a lot of good grounds. I think that, there's been so much covered. I mean, I was making a few notes, but I was just trying to follow the conversation because it's very interesting. It seems like we've got a kind of agreement that the Manosphere documentary on the whole was horrible, and the Manosphere itself is not representative of men's rights activism or anti-feminism or gender equalism. The Manosphere represents the kind of worst kind of, misogynistic, chauvinistic, arrogant men who are very, very much just in it for their money and just in it to, generate Ponzi schemes and basically scam people. So that seems to be what we've agreed on. I think that's a pretty, that's pretty legit to me. I mean, yeah.
You've just inspired my next video because you just made me realize something. There are two different kinds of anti-feminists. There's the kind of anti-feminism that we are, which we are against misandry. We're against feminists with double standards. We're against feminists who hate men. But there's a second kind of anti-feminism that we actually disagree with, and that's the anti-feminism of the fresh and fits. They're against women's education. They're against women's independence. They're both against feminism, but for different reasons, and for, in fact, opposite reasons. Yeah. So I would, in fact, say that I almost sympathize with feminists in their criticism of the other kind of anti-feminism. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that. Sure.
Yeah,
I just seek fairness. I mean, I'm anti-feminist because I'm pro-fairness. I'm pro-balance. I'm pro real equality. But those men who are against feminism because they're against women being educated and that kind of that's a whole different thing that I have no relationship with them at all except to take a stand against them.
Yeah, I have no sympathy for feminists. I would say the equivalent though would be like there's different types of feminists. Like I would say the two main types of feminists are radical feminists and liberal feminists. And then you can say intersectional feminists, who I would say are an offshoot of radical feminists. But you have the feminists who basically say we should dismantle the patriarchy. And then the feminists who say that we just want equal rights to men. I mean, liberal, because I was a liberal feminist as a teenager. And unfortunately, liberal feminism still has this idea, there's still the idea of patriarchy and this idea that we need to gain equal rights. And I would say we already pretty much have equal rights and we've always had some kind of equality in different ways. It's just so differently. It's not, we haven't had unisex equality. We've had complementarianism.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, because Jana earlier said something about how, it's about feminism and prostitution. The radical feminists are very anti-prostitution, whereas liberal feminists tend to be pro-prostitution. In my experience as well, most feminists at some point tend to veer off towards like radical or intersectional feminism. Like someone might start off as a feminist saying, I just believe in equality, but they tend to veer off towards like the more extreme ends of feminism. That's my experience of talking to feminists. I find that there's no having any kind of rational conversation with any kind of feminist. But maybe that's something to see for a later date. We'll see how that plans out.
Sounds good.
Okay. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in today. If anyone has any final thoughts, please let me know on this chat. Really enjoyed it. Quiet. Okay, cool. So I think this is a good place to end. So this is the Rational Female Podcast, and I will be live again on Friday with a new guest called Magpie. And yeah, very much looking forward to having him on. Thank you everyone for watching. And my next recorded video will be uploaded probably tomorrow or Thursday. Thank you everybody. And thanks for tuning in. Goodbye.